In this video, I'm going to talk about the window cleaning tools that you can upgrade to once you've gotten things going. Maybe you've got the budget to spend $400 or $500 on tools. And if that's the case, then combine the tools from the last video plus the tools in this video, and you'll be able to get a really full arsenal for everything you need to attack windows, whether it's commercial or residential window cleaning. So here we go. Once you kind of have the bare necessities as far as tools go, maybe you've done your first couple storefronts, first residential job. Next thing you want to get is a razor blade. I love the Unger Ninja one. Actually has a little button here so you can adjust the angle on the neck, so that if you wanted to put it on a pole and get something that's a little bit higher, harder to reach, you can actually scrape that off at an angle and have a little safer bed at it. But yeah, this one is fantastic. You always want to make sure you have a clean razor blade on it. I always have an extra canister of blades. When that gets down to the last 2 or 3, I order new ones. And you just want to keep them fresh. Every time you do a new big job, might as well swap it out. You can use both sides of it, flip it over. But you definitely want to have that on your tool belt. If you get the holster clips onto the belt, does a fantastic job of actually keeping the razor blade in a safe held environment. It snaps in and it's not going to shake off your belt. Definitely never falls out on me. That way it's secure, it's pointed down. The protector on the razor blade stays in place as well. I know I've seen some guys in the past try to put it like in a little loop that's meant for a hammer on a tool belt. I would definitely not recommend doing that. The lid could come right off of the razor blade and expose that blade, and you reach down to grab it and there goes your hand. So be careful, guys, but it's a necessary tool. Another thing you want to make sure you get, bucket on the belt. I'm currently using a different one right now, but this is the Moerman. I actually like this one a lot more. In the meantime, I was just testing out a Pull-X bucket that I just don't like as much. It hangs down too low and it doesn't rotate, so if I lean down, I feel just naturally tips over and all the water can spill out if you're not careful. Whatever one you use, you want it to be able to pivot right here. If it can pivot, then it's going to balance with you wherever you move. That way, no spills. You're also going to want to get some window cleaning buckets. They're helpful to have. You can fill this little guy up with about 1.5 gallons of liquid, and it's still very light to carry around. And then you just dip your applicator right into it. The larger ones for an 18-inch strip washer are a little heavier, a little more bulky. So a lot of times I just go with the 14-inch on a residential job, but if I'm doing commercial, you definitely want to have the window cleaning bucket for the 18-inch mop. It can be very helpful, especially if you're doing more commercial work. Now, another handy device would be a little pump sprayer like this, spray bottle. You just fill it with your regular solution, pump it up, and you can spray it right on the glass. It does a really good job. It's a little easier to carry around than a bucket. You can slip it right on a belt and not have to worry about where you're walking. You just keep it with you, and works really well to get water straight on the glass, especially if it's hot and you want to be moving fast. It's a little extra. I'll use them both inside and outside. There's usually not much overspray, so it is safe to use in kind of tight areas where you might have furniture or other things, and as long as you're pointing it in the right direction, it's going to spray on the glass pretty well. So you might want to try it out. A lot of guys like them, a lot of guys don't. Kind of comes to personal preference, whatever suits you. They're only $20, so worth the investment. I find that I typically, even right now, I wind up storing all my extra squeegee channels and strip washers and T-bars. I just wind up making it into a little storage bin, and I don't use it as often as my shorter 14-inch strip washer bucket. When you're doing residential, you can get by without one of those buckets altogether, just using a spray bottle. That's what I do most of the time. I water fed on the outside. Anytime I am cleaning glass with the traditional tools, like a new construction or a job that hasn't been cleaned in a long time, then typically you're going to want to have that extra water that comes in a bucket, and the squirt bottle is not going to quite cut it. Now, I recommended that you start out with a 14-inch strip washer, but one of the things that would be nice to upgrade right away is get something smaller. This is about a 6-inch, and it's adjustable. I don't really care for this one to be adjustable.
For something small, if it's just something that's rigid, that works great. So don't waste your time on a fancy handle. As you get larger, it is helpful to have something that does pivot. You should have bought your first one a pivoting one, but if you went to Home Depot and got one that's more rigid, this is not from Home Depot, but it is rigid, then you're going to want to get one that has a pivoting handle. If you've already got a pivoting handle, I like to have a handle that rotates or pivots for 14-inch and for 18-inch strip washer. So this is an 18-inch one. This is, I believe, 10 inches, and this is 6 inches rather. So that's what I would get if you already have a 14-inch strip washer. If you get those sizes, you're set. And I'll say I rarely ever use this 10-inch. There's a few times where it's really come in handy. So this might be the last one you get. You can always use a smaller one if you need to. Typically, I can get by with the 14-inch on 99% of my projects. But you get those French paints, you need something small. So start with the 14, get something small after that, then upgrade to the 18. And then if you've got all those and maybe a little extra money to go, get the 10 inch as well. And squeegees, hopefully you've already got a 14-incher or somewhere thereabouts. This is my typical combo. I use all the Moerman Excellorator and Liquidator channels. I've got the 1.0, the 2.0, I think I have the 3.0 somewhere too. Those parts don't really matter, but 3 different sizes is my standard. An 18-inch, 14-inch, and a 6-inch. That gets me through everything. If you want to go ahead and experiment with different types of channels, there's wide body, there's the traditional Edere brass channels, there's the Moerman ones like I'm showing you, the Liquidator channels that have the fancy edges cut so that you have less detailing. Have some fun with that, but make sure you have at least 2 good handles that you're carrying around. I'm typically having 3. I'll have this one in my tool belt, just kind of in a little loop for a hammer. And then the other 2 I'll have in my bucket on the belt. And I carry these around almost every job. And then whenever I have French paints, I'll take this. And then you can get some extra channel pieces. It's pretty cheap if you just get the channels. As long as you have 2 or 3 handles, you're good to go. One of the handles needs to be able to pivot. And then the other 2 you can be more flexible with. So I have 2 pivoting channels and then one of them that's fixed. This little Edere Ledger is a fantastic option, but really any handle will do the trick. This one just has very comfortable grip when you're cleaning the windows. It kind of feels nice and comfortable. So play with some different angles, play with some different types, see what they feel like. Start with 2 or 3, and then over time you can just try different things out, see what fits your hand more comfortably. We all have different muscle makeup, so squeegee preference has a lot to do with how you develop squeegeeing the glass, what muscles you're stronger with, how hard you press. It can vary from person to person, and each squeegee channel and channel type and material can affect the response of the squeegee to your touch. So whatever method you go with, you're going to find your favorites, and you can kind of just go with your favorite brand or favorite material for squeegees. And so my favorite is definitely the Liquidator channels. Took me some getting used to. I'd say at least a couple times where I would try it and then I thought I was going to throw it away, kind of saved it in a bucket on the side, and then a year later go and pick it up and try it out again and realize, okay, I was just doing it wrong. So I actually love the Moerman channels. They work very well if you get the technique down, but getting the technique down can take some practice. So if you're just starting out, go with all Edere brass channels. I think that's the most secure way. You can also cut them into smaller sizes. So if you order a 18-inch channel, cut it in half, you can get 2 different sizes from that one. You got to make sure you kind of ream or deburr the edges so that you're not going to scratch anything. Or you can just buy each individual channel to size. It makes more of a difference if you're in a place with older builds where there's a lot of French panes or divided windows. And if you can get each pane with one swipe, that makes life a lot easier. With that, if you haven't already, get some squeegee rubber. I like to get just the 12 pack of 18-inch squeegee blades or rubber. Always get the soft or medium, depending on the season I'm in. If I'm in the peak of summer, I want to get something that's a more medium. I mostly only use it for inside. If I was doing outside, then that's when you would consider basically the hotter the temperature, the harder you want the squeegee material to be. If it's cold, then you want extra soft. If it's hot, like 100+ degrees on an exterior piece of glass, then you might want the hard for that, because it basically just, it stays a little more firm a little bit longer. Basically, the softer they are, the easier they are to nick. And as soon as they're nicked, they start leaving streaks and you have to switch it out. So if you have a harder blade, I mean, that's what you get if you go buy something at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're going to have a hard rubber in there. It's not very forgiving. The only time you want to use it if it's extra hot, but it does last a little bit longer. Not that you want bad rubber to last you a long time. But that's kind of the difference. The softer to harder, it has to do with more the temperature of the glass that you're squeegeeing and the weather or climate that you're in. So you can kind of pick accordingly, but most people are good to go with a medium or soft rubber, and that will get you through a day or two and before you have to swap it out again. You're also going to want to make sure you get yourself a nice handy dandy tool belt. Just go to your local Lowe's or Home Depot and grab something that you can kind of configure to what you want. Once you get all your tools, you might know how many pouches you need and what you want to carry around with you, and then you just kind of make it work to suit your needs. So this is my tool belt. I don't have everything in it right now. I've got a whole other video about the tool belt that I'm using. I'll probably do another video maybe every year. I switch up my tool belt once in a while just to have new toys, new tools to play with. So, always got to keep it new. Then a little side tool, a little brush like so. These track brushes come from Window Cleaning Resource, and there's just a few bucks. Pretty cheap and easy to swipe things or dust out with. You can get by without these very easily if you just have like something like a screwdriver and a microfiber rag. Get everything damp and kind of pull it out. But this kind of causes a shortcut. You can go in and sweep it before you do that, and makes it a little bit quicker in the long run. So it's a nice bonus to have. Makes you look like a pro when you're cleaning the tracks as well. Now, for moving screens, residential, you're always going to need something slim that's strong and sturdy where you can remove the screens with. Currently, I'm just using this little pry bar. I put a little keychain hook on it so I can just clip it onto my belt, and it's easy to bring around with me. This is only $2, maybe $3 to $5 with all the little accessories hooked up to it. But it does a great job. I've also used the Screen King screen remover, and that does a handy job as well. A little less dangerous. What I'm using right now is a little sharper, so it's a little easier to damage the screen, where the Screen King kind of ensures that you're not going to do anything to the screen as long as it's in decent shape. So you got to be careful with corners and tight edges or sharp edges. If you're using a screwdriver, it's really easy to puncture the screen. This is a little less easy, so I'm very confident using this. It's nice and strong, and I can pry it up if the screen gets a little jammed in there. So you don't have to spend the $30 on the special fancy tool. If you do, it's kind of worth it if you're not going to lose it. I misplace everything, so that's why I have this. It's cheaper to replace. Another handy tool, you'll see a lot of guys using them on TikTok or wherever else. The Stevo Technopad tool actually does a really good job with the walnut pad. You can use the walnut pads or the white pads. I typically have the walnuts for whatever reason, but it does a really good job of cleaning the more grimy windows if they haven't been touched in a while. There's pollen or sap on them, and it pivots. It has good rotation on that. It goes up and down, left and right. So a lot of times I'll even use that alongside of a water fed pole. I'll just have this on any cheap extension pole. Get the glass wet, scrub it with this, and then hit it with the water fed pole one last time. So if they're really dirty, I can still use a water fed pole on a lot of situations. You can also dip it in a chemical to help if you have hard water stains or some type of like calcium deposit. It can actually do a pretty good job of getting that chemical applied and agitating the glass enough to clean off the heavier debris. You're going to want to get some nice detailing cloths. I love the XERO fish scale towel. I can't say it. It's one of my favorite tools. You can actually dry polish glass with this, and it does a great job. So if you have clean, dry glass and then there's a smudge on there that you see, you just go there easily. As long as you find a nice, dry, clean corner, you can wipe it up. Another little hack, you can actually add like a spray on glass cleaner or pure water to it, and it gives a little extra detail without leaving any marks behind. Now, before you get too deep into your business, you're going to need to eventually upgrade your ability to reach higher windows. So I use the XERO M9. I love this one because not only is it a great traditional pull to use for higher, harder to reach windows. I believe it goes about 28 feet. But this tip can come out. And then when you eventually upgrade to water-fed pull, which you don't want to do right away, but whenever you're ready, it just fits right in the same place. You got just a little different neck that goes in that top clamp, and you got a water-fed pull. So it's less than $300, a pretty good start setup for a water-fed pull system, and it's fantastic for any type of trad work, whether you're doing a second or even sometimes almost third floor up window that's a little hard to reach. Now it's obviously helpful to have some extra ladders around as well. If you're height averse, then you're going to go with the extension pole. But if not, you might want to get a good sized ladder. I have a few of them, as you can see, 2 down in the bed, 1 up on top that's all folding ladders. The Werner is on the top and the 2 bottom ones are Gorillas, and then just a typical Werner extension ladder. Now with ladders, size obviously matters. A lot of people might not like to acknowledge that statement in every situation in life, but it definitely counts if you're trying to clean windows, or especially if you eventually want to add on something like gutter cleaning or Christmas lights. It's better to be safe than sorry. So if you have to choose a ladder, I'll warn you, 28 feet is about the lightest that most single guys would want to have to carry around. Carry around a 32 footer, you're gonna have a higher risk of, tearing muscle in your shoulder, or causing an injury. So aluminum is lightest. If you're weight challenged, you might want to go with a fiberglass, because usually I think they're rated a little bit higher. Whichever route you go, your region also affects, like if you have basements in your area, you're going to need a taller ladder if you want to get on the roof. Typically a 32 footer is necessary. I was able to get by most situations with the 28 footer. But if you're in a place like where I'm at in Texas, or if you're in California, or a place where there's no basements, you can get by with a 24 footer, sometimes even 22 footer, and for a significant amount of time. If you're only cleaning the windows, you really don't need more than a 20-foot ladder, 18 to 20-foot ladder for a place without basements. The 24-footer is highly recommended if you're in a place that does have basements, because sometimes you're going to have to get up almost 30 feet up on the side of the house to reach a 3rd floor window. It could be 2nd floor, but with a more challenged landscape or whatnot, you can usually get by with that, though. I have only used my 24-footer, I don't know, 3 times in a year, and I can usually get by without it. Otherwise, I just use the folding multi-level ladders. They work for everything inside. I can get by most everything with an 18-foot folding ladder. I prefer using the folding ones because I can use them on stairs, like I said before. But if you're going to try to get onto the roof eventually, 24-footer in a place with no basements, 28 to 32 feet if you're on a place that does have basements and has higher, harder to reach windows and gutters. So set up so that you can be safe and feel secure. Now, I also recommend getting some gloves. I use the nitrile gloves inside a lot of the time. Now, it's not just because I'm a sissy guy. I kind of resisted using gloves for a long time when I first started cleaning windows. But you're using soap and water, and using the soap especially can dry out your hands. You get this nasty smelling residue from all that pet hair and whatnot that gets into your skin, and it makes your hands just smell like dirt and just gross for, it takes a couple days for that smell to wear out. Sometimes it feels like. There's an easy way to prevent it. Just simply wear these gloves. It makes you look professional, and it also allows you to detail windows a little easier. You don't leave smudges. You have natural oils in your fingers, so when you touch things, you're going to leave a fingerprint. But if you put these on, if you touch the glass, it's not going to leave any marks. So that's actually the real reason why I wear them. And then outside, it's just helpful to have these for just gripping things. I use it for the water-fed pole. A lot of times the poles are made out of a carbon fiber compound, and sometimes as they get older, that carbon starts to get on your hands and can leave them all black and kind of smelling funky. Also, if you're working inside and they have pets, they're touching pet hair everywhere, and we all clean windows without gloves once in a while, even if we like them. So having some glove extra protection doesn't hurt, and worth having. Another hack: if you have both gloves, these are the nitrile gloves, and then these are the nitrile coated gloves. You actually put the nitrile coated glove over top of the nitrile glove, It actually works very well for colder temperatures. So I know right now I'm in Texas and it never hardly ever gets cold enough for me to need that. But when I lived in New York for a few years and was cleaning windows in the dead of winter, I would just slip one of these gloves over top and it kept my hands nice and toasty, and I didn't have to worry about freezing my fingers off. That's pretty much all the tools you really need to get within the first year or so of your business. Obviously you have the ones that you have to get work done, and then there's extras, just things that maybe you don't need but will make you more proficient at doing your work. And then from there, it has to do with just increasing efficiency and making it easier to train people with the right tools. So you can get a lot of kits that are already kind of pre-picked out for you, and those are good starting points. And then as you grow, you can get things like, use a water-fed pole every day, but you don't need this until you're working over 40 hours a week, and then you can go twice as fast and save some time and earn more money. It's also much easier to train a new guy to use a water-fed pole. So if you have somebody who's a helper, maybe they're not going to stick with you a long time, it's not worth teaching them the techniques for the squeegee, but they can just do the outsides with this while you do the insides, and you can go twice as fast, do twice as much work, and not have to worry about training somebody how to do everything right. So you also can get a XERO screen cleaner. It will actually help you go quite a bit faster cleaning screens and do a more thorough job. And then from there, it's mostly just luxury items. Like you can get a fancy belt that's several $100s now, or you can get a bucket on a belt that costs $100, $200. You don't need those. They don't make you faster. They don't make you more efficient. They just make you feel cool, and that has its place. So when you want to splurge, you can do that. Once you're pulling in six figures, you need to get some tax relief somewhere, so might as well splurge on some nicer tools. But I hope that helps you. If there's anything that you want me to do a deep dive on, like a tool review, just comment below, and I'm more than happy to kind of go into that. But again, my name is Ben. I'm a window cleaner. My business is Blue Ladder. I'm up in the Dallas area, just north in McKinney, Texas, servicing Collin County. So if you're ever in the area, feel free to send me a message so we can meet up. Otherwise, yeah, just let me know if there's anything I can do to add value to you. I just want to be a help. I know I struggled when I started, and I didn't have a whole lot of people to lean onto or to find out what I was doing. So if there's any way I can be a help to you, just let me know.